This is paranormal incident number 10. This one's a little tough for me to talk about. It regards my previous cat, who I called Tikwa. And if you want to see what Tikwa was like, view my cosmology and what do I call it? I'd have to look. It was about cosmology, and it's one of my early videos about cosmology. I was going to redo it and never did. Or actually, I did redo it, but the redo was a dud. I should probably still go back and redo that. If anybody wants me to, let me know. But I did a video on cosmology in a car, driving, and talked about cosmology and out-of-the-body OBE, type stuff. At any rate, my cat was still in the show, Tikwa. He was a black and white. This cat probably was the most loving creature. I've had a lot of loving cats, but this is probably the most affectionate, closest to me cat I've ever had. He would literally curl up by my heart when I went to bed at night. Kind of in the way of my arms even, it's like curled up right through. At least in the winter. But you can see in that video how close he was to me. Just a real loving, almost like a dog more than a cat. He would jump in the car when you open the door. He wasn't afraid of driving because he always drove with me. At any rate, I was going away for a week, and I know I could easily leave enough, litter, and it's kind of hard for me to talk about this. I left him litter and enough food to go for 2 weeks, enough water to go for 2 weeks, even though I was only be gone for a week. And, I did this a couple of years before that, and I had a friend look in midway. And I was going to have him come too, but frankly, I didn't have any chance to clean the house up, and the house was such a mess I didn't really want to have anybody over. And when he did come over last time, he didn't really do much but refresh the food. And I thought, well, I just leave more food out, it's the same difference. I couldn't really ask the guy to clean the litter box out, and he didn't last time. So I figured out, well, why bother? Although I had talked to him earlier, but like I said, I didn't get the place cleaned up, and so I just was going to leave it without him. So I left the cat well provisioned, and I went out west. We were going by car, so that's another factor, because it's a 24-hour drive basically, to Colorado, non-stop driving pretty much. And then we spent a few days up there skiing, and after about 2 or 3 days I started thinking, Tikwa's missing me. I can hear him meowing, in my consciousness, it's like, but then I said, it's just my own, so that's just me thinking that, or maybe Tikwa is communicating with me, but he's just desperate because he's lonely. He's really kind of dependent on me like a dog would be for most people. Most cats don't really care too much. The cat I have now, I could leave for a week and he'd be a lot better off than this cat was. Just because this cat was so much more dependent on me emotionally. So I thought it was just maybe an emotional thing with the cat, or just my imagination. But I was really anxious to get home. When I did get home, I found him right at the edge of barely being alive. He was laying on the kitchen floor, sprawled out. And then after me and my brother got in the house and got loaded in a little bit and gave him some attention, he seemed better, a little bit better anyway. He was sitting in a more normal position. I wish I would have tried to force him to drink water or something. I was hoping to get him through the night, because we got home at 3 in the morning. I was hoping to get him through the night and try to get him somewhere. We really weren't safe to drive at that point. We were both so exhausted. Not that there was really any place to go at 3 in the morning. Might have found an emergency place so I really searched, but anyway, that night he died in bed with me. Middle of the night he just yowled real loud and died. So his systems were probably shutting down on him. He hadn't eaten more than a couple days, and then he stopped eating. He had a couple accidents on the floor, which wasn't typical for him. And doing a sort of an autopsy on him, I thought he, just feeling him out, I thought he seemed like he had a lump in his chest. I don't know if it was a tumor or a blocked intestine or whatever. But anyway, the long and short of it is I ignored, at my peril, his cries that I was receiving psychically. I say, my kitty's crying for me. I even said it to my brother a few times. And my work friend even called halfway through and asked me why I hadn't set him up, and I almost thought of having him break in at that point. I don't know why I didn't. It may have made no difference anyway. He may have not noticed at that point that the cat was sick, or the cat may have died anyway and he would have had to go through a lot of hassle, so I don't know how it would have worked out. But at any rate, it really pains on me to have ignored my kitty's cries I was receiving psychically. At least I thought I was. It turned out that he was in distress, so I have to say I was. The other odd thing about the whole experience is after he died that night, this is in the middle of the winter too, I went out in the backyard to bury him. And the neighbor's cat, who was friends with him, this neighbor's cat never makes a sound normally. But he was sitting at the neighbor's house looking over at me on like a banister or whatever around the deck they got in their house. And he was looking at me, and I was carrying Tikva in a plastic bag because I was taking him out to the backyard to bury him. Under all that deep snow, you can usually dig up the snow and then you can get to the ground. The ground isn't frozen after all that deep depth of snow is on top of it. So I was going to go to bury him, and that cat looked at me and just yowled really loud 5 times. Real loud moans, like I've never heard that cat before or since make a sound like that. So he knew something had happened too. So anyway, that's that sad story. Learn not to ignore intuition when it's nibbling at me like that. And I sure do miss him.